Good morning and welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone, and today my guest is Olivia Pare. Of course, I did not ask her how to pronounce her last name before I started, which I normally always do. So, was I okay or did I do it wrong?
You got it. Yep.
Sweet, sweet. Well, usually when I forget to ask, that's when I screw up. So, anyway, I'm super happy that I got that right. For anyone joining us for the first time today, Recipe for Success is combines my love of cooking with my love of business, succeeding, just what makes people tick. And one of the things that I have learned over the years is that I always found that there was one common ingredient or technique in the kitchen that was critical to the outcome of whatever it was that I was making. And the more I thought about it, I realized that that was really true in other areas of life as well. So that's what Recipe for Success is all about. What makes each of my guests tick? What is their key ingredients in their success in business and in life? So, once again, I'd like to welcome Olivia Pare to the show today. Olivia, would you take a moment and introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your background and what you're doing now?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nancy. It's exciting to be here. I feel really honored to be in a space with you. I've kind of watched you from afar on LinkedIn and gotten to know you that way. And I just feel really blessed. So thank you. Um, so kind of how I got to where I am today is I've always had a passion for being active and being conscious of my own health and well-being. And in college, I remember orientation, and I remember feeling so overwhelmed. Like we had to pick a major, we had to make all these decisions, and I had never heard of corporate wellness before, but sounded really interesting. And so I just at orientation chose corporate wellness, and that kind of led me down this path of really getting involved in that world. And I was able to secure some really good internships in college with Amway, which is a really, most people have heard of Amway in some form
Sure.
or another. And so I worked in their corporate fitness center with their consulting firm. And that really gave me kind of a really good glimpse as to corporate wellness and what it could be. At that time, that was 2006. Corporate wellness was really just, I feel like, new at the time. So it was difficult to find a job after college. I moved away actually to California, and I've always had this interest in travel and exploring, and I've always been really independent. So moved away from Michigan, is where I am from, to California, and was able to work for a medical fitness center. So I got a little bit of experience in medical fitness, which we focused on post cardiac rehab. And through that position, I was able to actually help them start a corporate wellness program. So that was kind of neat. And then the need to be around family really kind of brought me back to Michigan a couple of years later. And again, at that time, that was then 2008, and 2010, the job market in my field was really tough to get into. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to get my degree in exercise physiology. And I also focused on holistic health. Western Michigan is where I went to grad school, and they have a program for holistic health as a major in your master's program, which is really neat and unique. And that also just continued to spark my interest and passion in more of a preventative health than the cardiac rehab. And so after that, really tried to get back into finding a position in corporate wellness. And I spent about 6 years working for a company where I was their only employee. And so it felt kind of like, this is my own business pretty much. I was a consultant and wellness coach for about 25 different companies. And that really gave me a really good experience in the corporate wellness world. But I felt like there was something missing. I felt like I needed to be able to reach the employees on a different level. And so I was a part of their open enrollment meetings. And through that, was able to make some contacts kind of on the insurance side. And I've always had this kind of desire to learn and grow. And so through that, I thought, okay, well, maybe I want to explore the insurance side. So I spent a couple of years on the insurance side, the employee benefits side. And that's how I came to know you,
Yes.
because that was so new to me. I had no idea. That was just like diving into this whole brand new area where I just was a fish out of water. so so then I spent a few years doing that. And now I work for a company kind of tying that into the corporate wellness as well, Castlight Health. So I work with as a customer success manager and work kind of with the health plan, the brokers, as well as the customers to help them navigate our solutions. So that's kind of a long-winded, but
that's okay. That's a very interesting story. So, and I find it so interesting that you picked corporate wellness as a major. I think you're the first person I've ever talked to that picked that as a major. It's kind of in the same boat of nobody ever chooses insurance. Very few people choose insurance as a major.
Right.
Oftentimes people just kind of fall into it. But let's talk about the wellness thing for a minute, because clearly I've been around the block a few times, and I remember when the wellness programs were first being introduced into the benefit space. And I remember that it was kind of a big deal. The insurance companies, I would go to a broker advisory meeting and they'd roll out their new wellness program. They're like, well, the employer's going to have it for, whatever it was, a pretty steep dollar figure at that time that they would have to pay to have this wellness program. They're like, it's going to save them so much money. And we're like, well, how much? We don't know, but it's going to save them so much money. And that part of it kind of went away over the years. And I think people have, at least I've seen in the employers I work with, in the space I work with, that wellness is now not trotted out as something that is going to be a complete game changer, but something that should be part of the entire program. And to use your word, kind of holistic to the entire picture. Does that sound like kind of what your experience has been as well?
Yeah, I think when you start implementing different tools, a digital platform, or adding on a wellness coach or something, that's when I think, the employer really wants to see, okay, how are my dollars being spent and how am I getting that back by implementing these programs? I do think there's a little bit less of an emphasis on the ROI because it's really about creating that culture.
Right.
Because retention and, they want their employees to be happy. They want to create this culture of health and well-being. It's not just about the work. It's also about supporting employees as well. So I think there is a shift there.
Well, speaking of supporting employees, clearly the pandemic affected everybody's mental health, physical health, just affected us in so many ways. So how did you see wellness programs support both employers and employees during that time?
Yeah, I think there was a big push. A lot of employers who didn't have something in place were kind of like, whoa, I had no idea. We really need to get something in place. So there was a big push to get something in place, whether it was an EAP program, something just right out of the gate to get in place, or really working closely with wellness vendors to implement something with a strategy and a long-term focus of where can we make changes to really impact the health and well-being of our employees. So there's kind of a variety of what employers were able to do. Some employers were just focusing on staying afloat. During the pandemic, their bottom line was at risk. So it was, trying to keep employees healthy, but also trying to just stay afloat. So
Right.
It really varied, I would say, throughout the pandemic.
Well, one thing that I know I experienced personally was, as soon as, the proclamation came down in March of 2020 and everything shut down, we couldn't go to the gym anymore.
Right.
I mean, that was a big deal. And everyone had to learn, myself included, how, how do we keep physically fit and active when now all of a sudden we're in our homes, we don't have access to these outlets that we used to have to burn off stress, to keep ourselves fit and healthy. And I see now, well over 2 years later, that many people, including myself, have not returned to the gym. We found other
Right.
ways. So I could think that, again, a really solid wellness program could have been a tremendous support to employees during that time.
Right. And so going with a virtual option or a digital option really has been an improvement. It's an investment for employers, but I think that really was enabled employers, or and continues to enable employers to be able to reach their employees where they're at. A lot of employees don't want to come back to the workplace. They really want to work remotely, or have that flexibility rather. And so having a digital solution in place can really improve the wellness program versus, only on-site options.
Yeah, I can see that too, because part of, I think, again, I can speak from personal experience. I know I need accountability. And so I like having the flexibility of working out from home, but I have a group of women across the country where we all have Pelotons. And so we drop classes in our little group chat, a couple times a week. And I know that I just, even on days when I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to go into the cold garage and hop on that bike right now, I know somebody else is going to be there, so I do it. And I think the same thing can be true of any sort of wellness platform that provides that accountability, chat groups, support groups, et cetera. That can make a really big difference of not feeling so alone.
Yes, and on top of that, a lot of employers now have incorporated that rather into their incentives. So maybe it's, you can enter for sweepstakes by earning points for participating in certain programs, or maybe it's an HSA contribution that your employer would contribute based on you participating or completing certain amount of steps or whatnot. So there are other incentives that you can build into your benefit package
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so currently you work for a company called Castlight Health. Go ahead. Do I have the name correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about Castlight.
So Castlight is a digital solution. I can't say enough positive things about Castlight. When I first heard of them, it was about a year ago, actually. One of my previous kind of corporate wellness associate connections, through LinkedIn, actually, I had reached out to her just to connect during the pandemic and said, hey, what's up? What are you doing now? And she told me about Castlight Health, and I said, I want to work for this company. This company is on a mission to help employers save on their healthcare, to help employees save on their healthcare, to live healthier, happier lives. And that's really kind of sinks in with me as well. So we're a digital solution. We work with the insurance carrier to help kind of navigate the healthcare journey for the member or employee. So it's a really nice solution, kind of an all-in-one, whether it's the insurance, the medical insurance, maybe it's dental insurance, maybe it's even other programs that the employer is offering that can all be housed within this solution. So it's kind of a nice hub to connect the employee to all these different benefits, but also help them navigate their healthcare. So you can find you can find care within the solution. You can search for a primary care physician, specialist. It'll also show cost. So it gives you kind of that transparency on, different costs that you may be expecting for a certain type of visit or a prescription. There's different features that each employer can choose to turn on or remain off. So a lot of solutions out there are one size fits all, but Castlight is really very customizable to the employer and their employees. I personally love having it. When I first heard of it, I actually presented it to my current employer. I was like, we need this. I want this at our place of employment. So it really helps navigate the healthcare system. As you know, right, can be so messy and so confusing for people within the benefits industry, but also for, I mean, think about people who just have no idea about benefits. And so it can really be confusing. So it's a good tool to offer for employees. I hope that helps
Yeah,
explain.
no, I love it. I mean, I think I often say that benefits is kind of like a foreign language for most people, or
Yeah.
insurance is like a foreign language for most people. Things that we are just so ingrained in thinking about. It's not part of most people's daily existence. They're not thinking about, does my deductible run on a calendar year basis or does it run on a plan year basis? And even if I
Yes.
know the answer, what does that mean? So it's anything that we can do, I feel, as an industry to make benefits, insurance, healthcare more accessible, more understandable, and to empower the members more in making solid decisions, I think is uh, more power to anybody that can do that, because I think that that's where sometimes we miss the boat, quite frankly, as advisors, because we're so wrapped up in high level. Oh, I can do this, this, and this, but we really need to think about who the end consumer is, and that is the member, and how do they have a better experience.
Right. And a lot of times too, you know, you're speaking to the employee, but there's this, you know, spouse dependents that are also affected by the benefits. So being able to access that information, my spouse has access to all of that information as well through our digital solution. So if he's going to the doctor, has questions about his care, it's all right there within this app, which is really nice. Another feature that I do want to mention that's just, to me, it's like, oh my goodness, like this is so amazing, because having read Marshall Allen's book,
I love that.
so we have what's called care guides, and they it is either via chat or phone call where you can reach out to them. And not all of our clients have this. This is a, you know, a feature that you can have, but what they can do is they can reach out to the care guide, and that person will actually help them navigate their healthcare, whether it's a claim or maybe you need to find a specialist in their area and they've called 50 different places and nobody's taking new clients. You know, that care guide can really take the heavy lift off of the employee, which is, to me, so amazing. I just love that we offer that.
That's really cool. So I think I read when I was on Castlight's website, just kind of doing my little background intel, that you guys recently acquired Vera Whole Health.
Yes, we did. Yep. So that actually, I just started this in the beginning of the year. I just started with Castlight. So that has all kind of been transpiring since I came on, and it's really exciting. Vera Whole Health is a advanced primary care. And it seems kind of maybe like an odd couple, but they're really going to, you know, partner together to work together to help the healthcare system and help employers navigate healthcare and employees navigate healthcare. And advanced primary care, as you probably know, is just more of that deeper dive into an individual's health. And so it really kind of pairs with that holistic view of what Castlight offers as well.
Oh, I can definitely see that. Okay, so let's talk about the digital platform for a minute, because I think sometimes as a society, not as a company, but as a society, we're hiding behind digital platforms. Oh, it's going to be better for you, and it's going to cost me less money and mean I have to do less work too. So how is it? So let's say that somebody doesn't want to, they don't know how, they're scared of it, because many people are scared of digital platforms.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, okay, I don't know what button to push. I don't know which option to choose. So do they have the option of talking to somebody on the phone, or how does that work?
They do. Yep. They have the option of our support or, you know, via the care guides as well. So there is that human touch, if you will, or a chat feature on top of that. But I would say, you know, our solutions are very intuitive for the most part. And so I don't really see an issue with the digital side of it. I get that it's a scary beast to take on when it's brand new to an employer. But I also think the employer has some responsibility to also be invested and make the effort to communicate what's happening as well. So whether it be, on-site lunch and learns to talk about what their benefit solutions really are, or it's maybe a marketing campaign. So there are other kind of solutions or features that an employer can do to help the employee navigate that digital solution.
Well, you're 100% right. You can never just throw a solution at employees and expect that they're going to use it. I mean, the employer shouldn't spend the money unless they're also willing to spend the time and invest making sure that everybody understands what it is and how to use it and how it can help benefit them. Otherwise, it to me just feels like a throwaway. So I agree with you there. Okay, so one more question about wellness. The thing that I've seen a lot over the years is that a wellness program is implemented, and the people that use it were those that would use it anyway. It didn't really engage or bring others into better healthcare decisions or better lifestyle decisions. So how do you reach those people?
Yeah, so I think that wellness, just the term wellness, sometimes can be off-putting to some people. And so I think reframing that into it's not just about exercise, it's not just about nutrition. Maybe it's about getting involved in the community. Maybe it's about volunteering. Maybe it's also about maybe we start a reading club, a book club. So it's trying to find ways to reach everybody where they're at. Because if you're just going to focus on exercise and nutrition, you are going to miss out on so many people because so many people aren't there yet.
Right.
They're just not ready to commit to exercise every day for 30 minutes. So it's about also incorporating that holistic view of what health and well-being really is. Because if you're not connected, whether it's to your family or your community, or maybe it's your spiritual health or whatever, that's going to affect your health and well-being. If you are maybe not, finding something, a way to like give back, whether it's to volunteering or maybe it's donations or whatever, that also will affect your well-being. So it's not just the physical component. Maybe it's even, gardening and getting out in nature. So highlighting different programs that kind of that holistic view is really the idea.
You're one of the first people I've actually heard say that, put it and frame it that way. So I think that you're absolutely spot on. So if I were to go down a rabbit hole, which I sometimes do on this show, is that I think we need to maybe start thinking about how do we not only reframe the whole idea, but reframe what we call it. Because I think people tend to shut it out when they hear wellness. They think exactly what you just said. They're going to want me to exercise, or they're going to want me to, quit going to McDonald's or whatever the case may be, eat more vegetables, instead of really looking at how can we support you in taking small steps to feel better as a human being.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things about Castlight is that within the tool, it can be very customized to that individual based on, what they're searching for, or maybe they fill out a health assessment. And so providing solutions based on where they're at in their health journey is really, it's very personalized. What my experience is on the solution versus my husband's experience, they're totally different.
Sure.
So that's a really nice feature as well.
I like that. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to talk about you for a minute now. I know you were waiting. You were so excited for this part, weren't you? Okay, so from what I'm reading, you're a little bit of a crazy lady who likes to get in cold lakes and swim. Yes. What is that all about?
Okay, so my sister actually a few years ago, she introduced me to like cold plunging, cold showers. And I was like, there's no way I can't do that. And this is during the pandemic as well. And so I'm just super into podcasts during the pandemic. I'm not really interacting with very many people. So I'm really on the podcast. I think that's actually how I heard of you, was from a podcast. So I was introduced to, cold showers, cold plunges, and I live about 5 miles from Lake Michigan, and Lake Michigan gets pretty cold.
I can
So,
imagine.
going swimming, I'm very active, so I love to swim. So going swimming in Lake Michigan has kind of been, fun, I guess you could say. When you get out, it's like you feel amazing. When you get in, you're panicking. You can't breathe, you know, but when you get out, you feel like, wow, I just really accomplished something and I feel great. And I really think there is something about cold plunges, cold showers. Cold showers are actually harder, in my opinion. The
Especially to rinse
spraying the water.
stuff out of your hair. I'm like,
Yes.
I just stick an arm in. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
did my cold shower.
Yeah, the goal with the cold shower is to actually shower first, and then your last like 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes, just stand in the cold water. You don't have to wash your hair or
Oh, well,
anything,
thank
just
goodness.
stand in the cold water. So the idea is to like work your way up to it. Maybe start with like 10 seconds and then work your way up to it. But yeah, I mean, you should try it. It is very invigorating.
I might try it just because now I'm curious. Could I survive it? Maybe 5 seconds. We'll see.
Yeah.
So swimming and then
Yep.
triathlons also.
Yes.
Are you do the minis or the full?
I've done a half Ironman before. My goal was to do a full, and the training here in Michigan, I did most of my training in the winter inside. So when I went to go do the half, I had ridden my bike outside maybe 2 times.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, this is it for me. Half is great. I can do the half, but I don't think I can do the full. The full, because most of the training around here, you do in the winter time. So you miss out on the opportunity, or I'm not going to ride my bike outside in the winter or, spring even. It's just too cold for me. So the full is maybe still on the bucket list, but for now I'm gonna table that. But yeah, so now it's more like the sprint and Olympic distance that I really like to do.
You don't have like studded tires on your bike so you can ride in the snow.
No, and actually I wasn't even really prepared for my triathlons. I really just do it for fun. And so I have an old bike. My mom used to ride when she was younger, and when I was like, my bike's probably 30 years old.
Okay. So
actually, so I just ride. It's a road bike, but it's heavy, but it is what it is. It works, and I mean, I'm not the first one to finish, but yeah.
If you cross that line, you have accomplished something. You know what? If you start, you have accomplished something as far as a triathlon goes. That's really awesome. So another thing that I read about you, in addition to the fact that, of course, you love dogs, which we all know I love dogs too, but you love hiking, and one of your goals is to visit all of the national parks, which I think is so cool.
Yes.
So, like, how many do you think you've been to so far? And then what would be like, what's your number one on the top of your bucket list that you haven't been to yet?
So as an adult that I can remember, because I'd been to some as a kid, but I don't count them. I'll need to go back there. So I've been to 7 as an adult. I've been to Alaska, Arizona, a few in California, Utah. So I've been to 7. My number one is, it's hard to pick number one. So I have 3 that are kind of my top 3.
Okay, you can tell me 3.
So Isle Royal, which is actually Upper Peninsula, Michigan. My husband and I were supposed to go camping up there a couple years ago, and pandemic and all of that. And it's actually a really, you've got to be really prepared. So you have to like bring all of your stuff with you when you go there. So that's kind of, if I had to pick a number one, that would be my number one. But Glacier and Yellowstone. Those are the top 3. So
wonderful. Yeah. Okay, well, you have made it to the end, almost to the end. It is time for the 5 burning questions.
Okay.
So we always start off with number 1, which is, what is your favorite food and can you cook it? And let me remind you, it is Cinco de Mayo, so you're allowed to throw in.
So I definitely love tacos and all of that as well. But I would say favorite food, like if I had to pick a food to eat, for every meal, it'd be really difficult to actually pick a favorite food. I would say breakfast food if I can.
You can.
I love breakfast food: eggs, potatoes, bacon, sausage. There's a really good place in St. Petersburg, Florida, that has gluten-free. I'm celiac, so I have to have gluten-free cinnamon rolls. And so I would say like all of that. I could have that for every meal. So
Yeah.
breakfast food.
So my mom just piped in and says amen to that. She loves breakfast too, which is funny because that's the one thing I don't care for is breakfast.
Oh,
Because I don't like eggs. And so it just kind of
oh,
as a whole thing, it kind of
yeah.
like, yeah, it's too much work. But
Yeah.
I'll cook it. I'll cook it. I cook eggs too, so I don't have any issues around that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the one character trait you admire most in other people and why?
I would say that would be honesty. I think honesty is actually sometimes really difficult. And so when someone can work through, and be honest in those difficult times, I really admire that. I think instead of kind of dancing around something, whether it's in a working relationship, your spouse, your family, your friend, being honest can really go a long way. So for me, it's all about being honest.
I like that. Okay, so if I flip the mirror on you and I say, what is the character trait in yourself that you're most proud of and why?
Yeah, I would say my inquisitive mind. So I'm always wanting to learn, and sometimes it can be a little off putting to people because I'll ask why a lot or I'll ask a lot of questions. And so I think sometimes it can come across as I'm questioning you, but it's not that I'm questioning you. I'm just really curious to understand kind of the deeper dive into whatever we're doing. So I would say for me, I love that. I'm always wanting to learn more and understand more.
I think that's a fantastic characteristic and don't change it for anyone. Okay, so big picture, next 5 years, what's your number one goal that you'd like to accomplish in the next 5 years?
Yeah, in the next 5 years, so I married my husband last year, and he's from where we live now. I'm not from this area. So in the next 5 years, my goal is to really find my space in the community, whether that's volunteering or working with, a nonprofit, or not working. I mean, I love what I'm doing.
I
This would be
understand. I
in
understand what you're
addition.
saying.
But just finding my space in the community. I just finished a leadership program through our chamber, our local
Oh, those are
chamber,
awesome.
and it was amazing. We were connected with so many different resources in the community and learned so much about the different community issues. And so I really want to find my niche in kind of connecting with my community.
I really admire that your goal and your commitment to doing that because it is hard when you move into a new area to find where you fit.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge. It can be a challenge. So it's lovely to hear. All right. So, what is your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Yeah, I feel like that's a really tough one for me. I'm such an open book about everything, really. So I don't know if that would be maybe, learning that I've done some triathlons or whatever. I mean, I don't look like a triathlete. I'm like tall and thin, and so I would say maybe it's some things like that. But I'm really willing to like try anything and do anything. I'm really adventurous, so maybe that would surprise some people. But I don't really have like a secret talent.
You can't do some like whistle some like long song or juggle or anything like that.
I wish I could, but
Or
no.
just checking. No, I can't do any of that either. But thought maybe there was something. Okay, last question. So, who is one person that you follow on social media, maybe a podcast you listen to, that you would most like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with and just have a good conversation with in real life?
Yeah, so I would say Brene Brown. She's an author, and she is a researcher, and I think she's always searching for I don't know if you've heard of her before, but
I know her well.
Okay. Okay, so she just is so interesting to me. I want everybody to like know and meet her, not just myself. I feel like she's such an interesting person. And I love the fact that all of what she talks about is very research based. And so to me, again, tying into like wanting to learn and understand more and more, I feel like her and I would kind of click.
I love that. So have you read Atlas of the Heart?
I have it, but I have not read it yet.
You have to read it. It is so powerful. So anyway, I do have a group of, there's 5 of us women that have been doing a book club online about Atlas of the Heart. And so I'll have to let you know, but we are actually going to do a podcast about it probably in the next, I think I'm booked for it. Probably be the end of July, but we're going to do a podcast about it. We're all going to come on and talk about our different, thoughts and feelings about it. So, and then of course, invite everybody else to come and join in and share their comments as well. So yes, I think you would get along very well with Renee. So for anybody, I do want to give a huge shout out and kudos to Olivia, because in case you couldn't tell, because I couldn't, this was her very first podcast debut, and she was a rock star. So thank you so much for coming on today, Olivia. If people want to know more about you or Castlight, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Really, LinkedIn is probably the best place. A few years ago, I kind of got rid of like my Facebook and social media things, other than LinkedIn, just for my own mental health. And so LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. But yes, thank you so much for having me today, Nancy. This was really fun.
Oh, well, great. Thank you so much for coming on, Olivia. And everyone else, I will see you next week. Thanks again, and happy Cinco de Mayo.